Some places just cling to things, not just dust or old memories, but something darker, something that breathes the same air you do, but isn't quite alive. It waits, it watches. And sometimes, if you're unlucky enough to step into its domain, it decides you're its new toy. Tonight, we're talking about a house. Not just any house, but one that seemed to suck the warmth right out of you the moment you crossed its threshold. A house that didn't just stand there, silent and crumbling, but hummed with a low, malevolent energy, a whisper of countless forgotten lives. This is the story of Alex and the mistake they made buying that house. Alex had always dreamed of owning a place with character, a fixer-upper, maybe a little rustic, something with a history. When they stumbled upon the old Blackwood Manor listing, it felt like fate. Nestled deep in a small, sleepy town, surrounded by overgrown trees that clawed at the sky like skeletal fingers, it was everything Alex imagined. The real estate agent, a nervous woman named Sarah, seemed almost too eager to close the deal. Her eyes darted around the empty rooms, a faint tremor in her voice as she mumbled about good bones and potential. Alex, blinded by the dream of renovation, barely noticed her discomfort, let alone the unnerving silence that seemed to swallow every sound inside the house. No birdsong from outside, no distant traffic, just a heavy, suffocating quiet. The first few weeks were a whirlwind of excitement. Alex stripped wallpaper, tore up old carpets, and painted walls a cheerful, bright cream. The house slowly began to shed its decrepit skin, revealing glimpses of the beauty Alex had envisioned. But with the peeling paint, something else started to emerge. It began subtly, almost imperceptibly. A faint creak of a floorboard from upstairs when Alex was alone downstairs. The soft whisper of wind through the ancient chimneys, even on a still night. Alex chalked it up to an old house settling, a normal part of its character. They even found a strange comfort in these sounds, a feeling of being less alone in the sprawling emptiness. Then came the cold spots, patches of air, frigid and dense, that would suddenly manifest in the warmest rooms, making goosebumps prickle on Alex's arms. They would last for a minute or two, then vanish, leaving behind only the memory of an unnatural chill. One evening, Alex was in the kitchen, making dinner, when a glass on the counter slid, ever so slightly, about an inch, before stopping. It was too precise, too deliberate for vibrations. Alex stared at it, a knot of unease tightening in their stomach. Just the house settling, they muttered, but their voice lacked conviction. Sleep became a fractured thing. Alex would wake in the dead of night, heart pounding, convinced they'd heard something. A faint scratching behind the walls, like tiny nails dragging across plaster, or a low, almost imperceptible sigh right next to their ear. The dreams, when they came, were vivid and unsettling. Shadows that moved on their own, whispers that promised unimaginable horrors, and a constant, suffocating sensation of being watched. Every morning, Alex would wake up exhausted, the memory of the dreams clinging to them like a damp shroud. One afternoon, Alex was organizing old boxes in the attic, a dusty, forgotten space that felt heavy with history. As they rummaged through yellowed newspapers and moth-eaten clothes, they found an old wooden music box. It was beautiful, intricately carved, but felt strangely cold to the touch. Alex wound it up, and a tinny, melancholic tune tinkled into the stale air. As the music played, a chill swept through the attic, more intense than any Alex had felt before. The single bare bulb hanging from the ceiling flickered wildly, casting dancing shadows that seemed to stretch and contort into grotesque shapes. Alex felt a distinct pressure, like heavy fingers pressing down on their shoulders. The air grew thick, suffocating, and the smell of damp earth and something acrid, like burnt sugar, filled their nostrils. Panicked, Alex slammed the music box shut, and the phenomena instantly ceased. The light steadied, the pressure lifted, and the air returned to its usual dusty chill. That was the turning point. No longer could Alex rationalize the incidents away. This wasn't just an old house, it was something else entirely. Something inhuman. The entity, whatever it was, grew bolder. Footsteps, distinct and heavy, echoed from the floor above Alex's bedroom when they were trying to sleep. Not just random creaks, but a steady, measured pace, as if someone was pacing back and forth, directly above their head. One night, Alex heard a child's faint giggle coming from the hallway, a sound so innocent and yet so utterly terrifying in its context. They froze, heart hammering against their ribs, too petrified to move, too afraid to open their eyes. The giggle faded, replaced by the chilling sound of something dragging slowly across the wooden floor, heading towards their bedroom door. The sound stopped directly outside. Alex held their breath, praying for daylight. They could feel it pressed against the door, just inches away. A cold dread seeped into their very bones. Objects began to move with more purpose. Alex's keys, left on the kitchen counter, would reappear on the top shelf of the pantry. The book they were reading would be found face down on the floor, pages ripped. One morning, Alex walked into the living room to find all the chairs meticulously stacked in the center of the room, forming a bizarre, unsettling tower. This wasn't playful, it was menacing. It felt like a deliberate attempt to mess with their mind, to assert its presence, its dominance. Alex's once bright demeanor vanished, replaced by a constant state of exhaustion and paranoia. They started carrying a flashlight everywhere, even during the day, as if the beam could ward off the encroaching darkness. They barely ate, lost weight, and their eyes, once full of light, now held a haunted, desperate look. Friends called, but Alex made excuses, too ashamed to admit they were being terrorized by their own home. One particularly dark and stormy night, the power went out. The house plunged into an absolute, suffocating blackness. Rain lashed against the windows, and the wind howled like a banshee through the eaves. Alex fumbled for their phone. It screamed a solitary beacon against the overwhelming dark. They were in the living room, trying to find a candle, when they heard it. A whisper, clear as day, right behind them. Not a phantom breeze, but a voice, rasping and ancient, speaking a language Alex couldn't understand. Yet its meaning was terrifyingly clear. "You don't belong here." Alex spun around, their phone light wildly illuminating the empty room. Nothing, but the air was impossibly heavy, charged with a malevolent energy that made their skin crawl. They could feel a presence, large and looming, just out of sight, barely a breath away. A guttural growl vibrated through the floorboards, a sound so primal it turned Alex's blood to ice. Then a cold, slender finger traced a line down Alex's spine. It felt impossibly long, like bone, sending a shock of pure terror through them. Alex screamed, a ragged, choked sound, and stumbled backward, tripping over something unseen. They hit the floor hard, their phone skittering away into the darkness, its light extinguished as it crashed. Panic seized Alex. They scrambled backward on their hands and knees, clawing at the wooden floorboards, desperate to get away from whatever was towering over them in the oppressive black. The growl intensified, right above them now, and Alex could smell something foul, like decaying meat and stale blood. They could feel its breath, cold and fetid, on the top of their head. A guttural, wet chuckle echoed through the absolute darkness. A voice rasped, "Closer now, little mouse, running won't save you." Alex cried out, a raw primal scream torn from their throat. They blindly pushed themselves up, scrambling towards where they thought the front door was, their hands outstretched, bumping into furniture, their minds screaming one word. Escape. They fumbled for the doorknob, their fingers numb with terror, twisting, pushing, pulling. It wouldn't open. It was stuck, or locked, from the inside. A hand, icy cold and impossibly strong, grabbed Alex's ankle. They gasped, falling again, their head hitting the floor with a sickening thud. The grip tightened, dragging them backward, slowly, relentlessly, deeper into the darkness of the house. Alex kicked and screamed, tears streaming down their face, but the hand held fast. The laughter returned, louder this time, a cacophony of ancient, cruel mirth that filled the entire house. Alex's vision swam, the blackness consuming them, and the last thing they saw before consciousness faded was a pair of glowing red eyes, twin embers of pure evil, staring down at them from the void. Alex woke up in a hospital bed, sunlight streaming through a window. Their body ached, bruises bloomed across their skin, and their head throbbed. The doctors said they'd been found unconscious on the doorstep of their house, suffering from hypothermia and severe shock. They mumbled about gas leaks and hallucinations induced by stress, but Alex knew better. They remembered the eyes, the grit, the laughter. Alex never returned to Blackwood Manor. They signed the papers from their hospital bed, selling the house for pennies on the dollar to the first anonymous buyer, desperate to sever all ties. They moved to a different state, tried to start over. But sometimes, in the dead of night, when the wind howls just right, Alex still hears the faint echo of a child's giggle, or the dragging sound of something unseen just outside their bedroom door. And every so often, they catch a fleeting glimpse in their peripheral vision, a shadow too deep, too defined, moving just at the edge of their sight. Because some places, some things, don't just cling to the house. Sometimes, they cling to you. And once you've truly seen the darkness, it never really lets go. It just waits for the right moment to remind you it's still there. Always watching, always waiting.